So guess what I just did?
I don't know.
I canceled my movie pass.
I laugh because #MoviePass failed.
Oh my God.
Here's what I'm going to say to you. So
Okay.
I brilliantly got the annual
Because you're a
membership
forward thinker.
because I love movies, as do you.
Mhm.
This sounded too good to be true.
And it is.
It is. And I'm so frustrated and so angry. I've sent them emails, MoviePass. So the deal was you pay this amount, you can see all the movies you want. And I guess that MoviePass felt like that people weren't going to.
Yeah, I think it was
use
supposed to work like a gym. Like I pay a monthly gym membership and they make money off of me because I barely use the gym the way that I should. The problem with that philosophy is that going to the movies is way more fun than going to the gym.
Yes, and easier and less strenuous.
Yeah.
You just have to go and sit. And
there was something I posted on the Popration Facebook page about a guy who would just be walking through New York and really need to use a bathroom, and bathrooms in New York are so bad, except that bathrooms in theaters are really clean. He would buy a movie ticket just to go to the bathroom. So a lot of people, were buying tons and tons of tickets, and they were bleeding money.
Well, there were lots of scams, if you will, on that, and I thought were hysterical. But if you have any of the movie theater rewards stuff, you could just rack up on concession points, which is the whole idea that theaters were like, okay, we'll do this because we make our money on concessions.
Sure.
I think I don't know who it was who first sold this to investors, but it just seems like a bad business model from the get-go.
Yeah, well, I'm done.
Well, yeah, and I just watched you cancel yours, and I don't think mine's going to last till my annual is up. I don't think MoviePass is going to last. I think it's going to go down, so I got to take advantage of it.
Well, you got three free movies a month until that happens, so enjoy.
So, #MoviePass fail.
Attention. Pop surgeons Eric and Stacey, please report to operating room 1. Pop surgeons Eric and Stacey, please report to operating room 1. Surgery is about to begin.
This is Popperation. I'm Stacey.
I'm Eric.
I felt like I sounded a little bit like a news show at that moment. I felt like Walter Cronkite, which is going back, way back. But it was like, that was weird. So, anyway.
Leave it.
So I am. So I do love these shows. And what we're talking about today are movie previews. We watched a bunch of trailers and we're going to disseminate them a little bit to let you know what's coming up in the next couple of months.
Yeah. So we're both going to be talking about, I'm really excited about this movie, but also occasionally dissecting the trailer as though it's an art form in and of itself.
Because
which it kind of is.
They really are. Now, we're doing September and October openings because we're going to do another trailer preview for holiday movies.
Because we love these shows so much.
Because the November and December, though, you have a lot of big stuff coming out then because they want to get the Christmas people. And also, they want to get all of the stuff in so that they can be nominated for Oscars if possible. So anyway, but that's not what this show is. This is this weird fall in between. It's in between summer. It's in between holiday. And sometimes theaters just don't know what to do. They have movies on the shelf and like, okay, we'll just put it out now.
And you know what struck me about this whole list that we're looking at today is not a lot of blockbustery kinds of things.
Almost none. Almost none.
Because typically, don't you find at least one of those Marvel or DC movies will put out something in the kind of,
but I
space,
feel like
so it can be the only blockbuster of its...
Well, I mean, Ant-Man came out a month or two ago, and that's kind of their thing until the holidays.
Yeah, that's still a summer movie, though. I mean, that's...
No, I agree. Yeah. I agree. But at the same time, I'm like, why? And I get it. Why waste it at this time? Because... I just don't think. I think people they've started school. Stuff has started working up again, and people aren't flocking to the movies, as much. I think that's why.
Especially after #MoviePass fail. Anyway.
Exactly. But I also noticed what I noticed is that there are a lot in both months of movies that are based on something. They're based on a true story. They're based on a novel. They are kind of based on history. There is a lot of that happening. There's not a lot of kids stuff coming out.
One movie that we saw.
One movie that we saw that's coming out in this time frame. Christopher Robin's already out, but there's not anything. And the big holiday kid stuff is going to come out. Mary Poppins, whatnot. That's coming out in December or November. So anywho,
so we've got a bunch for September.
Yes.
And then we'll take a break in the middle of there, and then we've got some for October at the end.
So the first, I thought I kind of put them together. There's a bunch of stuff that's based on a true story, and I think we need to understand that when that is such a loose term.
How so?
You can legally say something is based on a true story and only maybe keep the names are the same. You can change almost everything else.
Yeah, I feel like recently we've seen the things that are inspired by a true story, and those that's always a clue that this is taking things a lot looser.
They have done a lot of changes,
which is totally fine because something was inspired by, and then you got creative, which is great. I love it when people. I
also feel like that's more honest. Yeah. I feel like based on is the same thing. They've gotten just as fucking creative.
Yeah.
But we're going to call it based on so that you come and think it's a documentary.
But if you want to take things literally, things can be based on a true story and still be embellished. That's
true.
Okay. And these aren't, as we want to say, these aren't documentaries. Most of these are feature films.
Right. And the whole deal is I lost my train of thought. So I'm going to move on. There is no whole deal. So anyway, the first one that we saw, I think it might be pretty popular. It's called City of Lies.
Yeah, and this is a movie about the murder of Biggie Smalls, and somehow when he was killed, also the killing of Tupac Shakur comes in there as well. This stars Johnny Depp and Forrest Whitaker, and my first response was, okay, you're going to base a movie on the murder of Biggie Smalls, and you're going to put this white guy Johnny Depp at the center of it. So I was happy to see Forrest Whitaker also taking some of the.
Yes.
And then
the trailer,
screen
he takes
time.
a lot of.
Yes. No, I mean, it definitely is the two of them.
So I'm hoping that he is at least 50%, if not more so, of the push toward it.
And when I looked at IMDb and I looked at the cast, a lot of African Americans in the cast. So I was glad to see that because I can't think of an example right off the top of my head. But there have been other things where it's like, let's take this event that was really critical to the African American community and tell the story with a bunch of white people.
Yeah.
So that was good. It's interesting in this kind of hashtag Me Too age, Johnny Depp is one of these peripheral characters who is a little problematic in terms of, is there going to be this big thing about not going to see a movie with Johnny Depp in it?
Although his stuff came out last year. So a lot of this stuff, the movies that are coming out with him in it were done before that. Sure. Has it affected his career? I don't know.
We'll see.
Because a lot of these movies, he's always been very busy, and a lot of these movies were done before then. This I'm actually fascinated by it a little bit because it is a mystery, and it also looks like there was some racism as far as we don't really need to, we don't need to look into this because it's probably just...
Yeah, and this movie really takes the LAPD to task, it looks like. It shows them to be a very corrupt organization. So we'll see. And I wondered as I watched it, what is it like to live and breathe in Hollywood and make a movie that makes a villain out of the Los Angeles Police Department? And was there any political... I just wondered. Like, that's just a really
at the same time...
That takes some cojones to make that movie.
At the same time, the police department has been there as long as Hollywood has been there.
Sure.
If not a little shorter. It's like... They've always had to deal with it. I mean, they've had to figure out how to deal with each other.
But there's something like making an LA Confidential, which says there were crooked cops back in the 40s, as opposed to something that this feels. I mean, I know that Biggie didn't die yesterday, but it feels a little bit more present tense.
Correct. Well, and I think that's part of it too, is that some of these historical movies are also trying to make a comparison as to what's going on right now.
Yeah. The next one on our list is Can You Ever Forgive Me, starring Melissa McCarthy and Richard E. Grant. It was kind of fun to see him.
Oh my gosh, wasn't it though? That was a little weird. That's a weird combination.
Yeah,
I like him a lot.
It is. I like him a lot too.
This is interesting story. It's about this writer, and again, based on a true story.
Leah Israel,
who apparently had some hits, some success as a writer, and then she didn't. And so she's struggling, trying to figure out how to make money. And then comes up with this plan to forge writings of old and dead authors.
Yeah, letters.
And sell them as these historical products.
Collectibles.
And thus making a lot of money off of them.
In the very first scene, she actually finds a legitimate letter written by Fanny Brice. It was some thank you note that was like, no big deal. And the woman actually says, I could give you more if the content was better, but this is kind of boring. And that's where she kind of gets the idea, I could write love letters, or I could write something that's really like, ooh, and then
in the style of,
yes,
and thus, making all this money, which she does, which is, by the way, illegal.
Yep, totally.
And so it looks like she gets caught.
Yeah, and what else it kind of occurred to me when I was watching this is that they're showing her as a writer with a significant amount of talent. Because people are looking at these letters going, God, such caustic wit, so clever. And she's kind of smiling on the inside. She's like, yeah, I wrote that. I thought that was clever too when I came up with that. So she's a good writer. She just can't find anyone to appreciate her voice, but she can forge a letter by Fanny Brice or Marilyn Monroe or whoever.
Now, also, Richard E. Grant, he looks to be, he's like her drunk friend enabler.
Yep.
I think he's, getting all into it. And he's her confidant. I mean, if you're writing all this great stuff, you want to tell somebody.
Sure.
And so he's there, but I think it looks like he betrays her.
Yes, it
somehow.
Looks like he's the one who turns her in, which that was my other thing about, did you just show me the whole movie?
There's a problem with trailers.
Could be.
If you show me everything, if you show me everything that's funny, if you show me everything that's a twist, I don't need to see the movie.
But you know what I am intrigued by was this little tiny appearance by Jane Curtin. Haven't seen her in forever, and it's like, it's Jane. Oh my gosh, yeah. So now I want to see that movie just so I can see her entire performance, which I hope is bigger than the little snippet they showed in the trailer.
But yeah, so it looks interesting. It's Melissa McCarthy without the makeup, without the. There is not that funny thing, that funny persona.
This is her Truman Show.
This is her acting.
And hopefully it's a lot better than the Truman Show. Because what was wrong with the Truman Show is that occasionally Jim Carrey would say, I could do this. Let me do this my own way occasionally. And they would let him do a crazy take.
Right.
And every once in a while, the director used it. This seems, at least from the trailer, there's no shtick.
Right.
She's just doing the job and playing a role and looks to be pretty good.
Yeah, this may be an Oscar nom. There's, it just depends on how the movie does. So the next one, I'll be honest with you, I'm really excited about. I have always been a buff of history, U.S. history with regard to World War II. And I watched a lot of documentaries, and I actually watched a documentary about what this movie, Operation Finale, is about, which is about the capture of Adolf Eichmann, who was one of the architects of the Holocaust.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating. And I remember I literally watched the documentary. So watching this trailer, so the trailer looks like it follows real life. And you sit there and you watch the trailer and go, what the? Because it looks a little fantastical, but it was cray-cray. What they did to capture him in Argentina was cray-cray. And it was off the charts spy stuff. And it worked. And he went to trial and all. I mean, it was great. But that's what this is.
Spoiler, they catch him.
Oh, yeah, spoiler. He's guilty.
But they wouldn't have made a movie if they hadn't. My thing was, Ben Kingsley looks creepy as fuck.
He looks very similar to him. Now, my only problem is if I'm going to be distracted by all the makeup.
Yeah, because they do a lot of, at least in the trailer, there's a lot of flashbacks to the 40s, and they make him look a lot younger, and which that makes him also look creepy because he looks like he's made out of plastic.
But he looks very much like Eichmann.
Yeah.
And that's what they were trying to do. It's one of those where you have to decide, do I let the actor look more like the actor, but do the character of the person, or do I just put a crap ton of makeup on them so they are the spitting image and hope that the acting comes through?
I don't think
know.
there's a whole lot of makeup on Kingsley in the 60s Argentina scenes. He looked like Ben Kingsley. I just saw them put a ton of makeup on him to make him look a lot younger when he's back in the 40s.
I think that might be what either makes or breaks this is if it doesn't feel, if you're too distracted by that.
Yeah.
But
although
the story,
I can be distracted by Oscar Isaac any damn day.
The story is true, and it's going to be the real story is at least as fantastic as whatever story they have in this movie, and I'm psyched to see it.
And let's just notice that Stacey totally railroaded me while I was lusting over Oscar Isaac.
I didn't have time for that because U.S. history.
I've got a ton of time for that.
So then we go to one that I'll be honest, pass. White Boy Rick.
Did it look interesting to you?
It looks like it's probably well done. It's about this kid who becomes a mobster.
Yeah.
And it's an ugly, greasy Matthew McConaughey
as the dad.
It's one of the two that he's in this.
But it looks
section,
like an introducing brand new actor whose name escapes me, but this is his introducing credit as this young kid Rick. What I found interesting about the trailer is that he's not only a kingpin, but then also an FBI informant, all before the age of 16. So he was, and this is again based on a true story. My one thing about this trailer when I saw it, though, that I was a little like, it made me step back a little bit. It was like he was a dealer, mobster, kingpin, informant, and then the last word they use is legend. And I'm like, really? Are we making criminals legends now? I mean, we always have. We always have. Yeah.
But I don't know him. I mean, Al
but
Capone
this movie
is
trying to make him a legend. And maybe Al Capone's a legend because we made a bunch of movies about him. Scarface is a legend because we made a movie about him. I know we've always turned criminals into legends in some way, but I was just kind of like, really? Like, especially when kids are going to see this. And it's like, this is not a hero. I know I'm being a little PC when I do this, but I just thought that word just kind of struck me and made me go, ugh.
Here's what I want to say about this one. While on Operation Finale, I know the true story, so I know that whatever they put in there, it's going to be probably pretty close to how it really was. This is one of those where I feel like maybe this was inspired by the true story, but I felt like there was going to be a lot of drama and theatrics and whatnot, and maybe timing things, because it is a lot that he was at one time. I mean, I have a hard time doing what I do, and I'm not doing anything in the underworld.
I will say that the initial scene that in the trailer that I saw, where Matthew McConaughey is kind of the lead of the trailer, and he comes home and catches the daughter with a boy, and and it's kind of played for comedy because Grandma and Grandpa rolled up. Grandpa's Bruce Dern, and it's all they're kind of fighting, and it's like, and finally it's like, we're going for custard. And there was this, it looked charming. It looked like a kind of, here's like a white trashy comedy kind of thing that looks fun. And then it got really dark. Then it like all of a sudden the trailer's focus switches from Matthew McConaughey to the kid. And then it's like, ooh, this is going to be a dark movie. And also I'll just say, we saw Jennifer Jason Leigh for like a second. And I think she probably has a pretty big role in this movie, but she's not really featured a whole lot in the trailer, and that was just interesting.
As I said, it's going to be it's to your taste on that one. And then the last one for this section before we take a little break. And it just came, recently we've heard that Robert Redford is retiring from film.
Good for him. I think he has put in his time. If he's done,
you talk about legend.
Yes.
And this Old Man and a Gun, is the movie
The Gun, I think. The Old Man and the Gun. Yeah.
Okay. I kind of want to see it.
I'll tell you, I want to see it because it's Redford's last film.
That's part of it, and that will get some people there.
Yep.
I mean, it's not quite Old Man in the Sea, which who wants to see that? But it's all, I say congrats to you for going out on your own.
Mm-hmm.
I think there are a lot of actors and actresses, actors mostly, who stay too long at the party. I'm looking at you, Sean Connery. And you find your time and you say, I'm going to go now.
Listen, I don't blame anyone who wants to work. If that's your thing and that's what you want to do. I do think that sometimes older actors need to choose roles that are right for them.
Appropriate.
And this is a perfect role for an aging Robert Redford. You know, he's an old, charming bank robber.
This shows
and so that's great for him.
Even in the preview, you see why he was huge in the 60s and 70s and 80s.
But let's talk about what's barely in the trailer is Mr. Casey Affleck, who looks like he has a big role in this movie.
I was like, is that? And the next scene I was like, is it? And then the next scene I was like, holy shit, it's him.
And he's got second billing in this movie. He's like the cop who goes after him. And I bet he's in this movie a lot. It's interesting. He's hardly in the trailer.
They are not saying Academy Award winner Casey Affleck.
No, it's like, serial abuser Casey Affleck. So who they turn into the co-star in the trailer is Sissy Spacek, who I love. And she looks wonderful in this too, but I bet we saw almost her entire performance in the trailer because she's like
this romance. He's having this. It looks like a romance with Sissy Spacek, and then he's on the run. He's a robber.
Yeah, and he's a one-man bank robber who walks out of the bank with a smile on his face,
but kind of because that's what he enjoys doing,
and no one expects him to rob a bank because he's this. He's this.
It's like this weird,
craggy old man.
Very charming kind of. It's kind of where you feel like the Sundance Kid would have ended up.
Yeah. And last word on this trailer for me is that the trailer looks like a movie from the 70s. Do you notice that? Like the font that they use and the way they keep going back to that Western painting and even the car chase through the fields. I was like, they're almost kind of, Redford was a huge star in the 70s. And this movie looks like, or at least the trailer looks like the kind of trailer they would make for a 70s movie. And I thought that was interesting.
Also, that whole Western thing, understand that that's a lot of people. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid was huge. And it really cemented that Robert Redford was going to be a star.
Yeah.
And so if you can tie your movie to that star, do it. And I think they did, but it looks very cute, but it looks like it's good for your older generation as well as the ones, that are looking at this little mystery of it's a cat and mouse game, really.
But wait for people to say, don't go see this movie because Casey Affleck's in it.
Yeah.
That's going to happen.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to take a break and then we're going to come back with more movies that are coming out in September.
Okay, so we are back with movie trailers in September. And again, we talked about a lot of these movies were based on something. And we have a couple here that were based on books. And one of them I'm calling it a coming of age. It's probably also a coming to Jesus for the world. It's called The Hate You Give.
Yep.
And the trailer is heartbreaking.
Yes. When they flash the title at the end of the trailer, you notice The Hate You Give is spelled, U is not spelled out. It's just the letter U, like Prince.
Yeah, Prince.
But what that means is that the initials of this movie is Thug. Right? The Hate You Give.
I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, and they actually show the word thug for like a split second and then fill in the rest of the title. And I was like, that's clever. This is about a young girl who lives in an African-American part of town. They show the barbecue place, the barber shop, the grocery store, and it looks, inner city. Mm-hmm. But her parents send her to a private school. So she goes to school with a bunch of wealthy kids. She's very popular there. It says, it doesn't look like there's a lot of racism she deals with there. But on the weekends, she spends time with all of her childhood friends.
And in the narration, she talks about when I'm at school, I play the white person. I try to be as white as I can. Mm-hmm. But then on the weekend, I'm just me with all my other black friends.
Yep. So the drama starts when she's out with a boy who looks like there might be a budding romance between these two. And they get pulled over. He's black. They are both black. He gets pulled over by the cops. And while he got his hands on the car, decides to flirt with her a little bit. And she's begging him to take this seriously because she knows how dangerous this can be. He reaches for a hairbrush and the cops, clearly think he's reaching for a gun.
Because he's a black guy.
Because he's a young black boy. And they shoot him. And then then the movie switches into, this is a story about police brutality against the African-American community. And it's also her story about, do I stand up and fight this, or do I just shrink back and try to play it safe?
What do you do in this situation? Yeah. And what do you do in this situation for everybody in the community? I think we see it from different aspects. It looks like Common's in there, but
oh, the cast is amazing.
I think Common plays her dad.
No, I think Anthony Mackie, it looks like, plays her dad.
Oh, okay.
Common, his looking up IMDb right now, his role is Uncle Carlos. So I think he's an uncle. But the cast, Amanda Stenberg from The Hunger Games, who I didn't even recognize because she's much more grown up now than she was in The Hunger Games. She is the lead. She plays a girl named Star. Anthony Mackie plays her dad. Regina Hall is in this, who I love.
She's amazing.
Common. Issa Rae from HBO's Insecure.
Yes.
Who is fantastic and looks like she's doing her dramatic turn. She's kind of paying those dues. Raven Simone is in this movie.
I didn't even see her.
I don't think I saw her either.
Yeah. I love her, though. I love her.
And, it's just got this really fantastic cast of people.
Well, it's one of those, it's timely as hell. It couldn't be more It couldn't be more timely. Yeah. And it's happening. It's what's going on right now. Yep. And again, it's one of those where some of these movies, it is about whether it's this obvious, this is clearly, literally what's going on, or if it's a metaphor or something like that.
But I think it's a wise choice to tell the movie through her eyes. Again, she's not a white girl. She is an African-American girl.
But
this
she's a
happens
teenage
to her.
girl.
But she's also a teenage girl who goes to a private school that a lot of white audiences will be able to relate to. And I think that's an interesting bridge to build. The whole trailer sets that up at the beginning. Yeah. And I thought when I was watching it, you're going for a broader audience than those who are already bought into this message.
You have to. Yeah. You have to. Otherwise, there's no point. Another novel that brought to the screen is The House with a Clock on Its Walls. This is Jack Black. Now, he was in the Goosebumps movie. So we've seen him do this it looks kind of like the same-ish sort of part, sort of. But it's Jack Black. And we talked about a weird combination with Melissa, was it Melissa McCarthy? Is that we were talking about Melissa McCarthy and what's his face? Jack Black and Cate Blanchett.
Yeah.
Such a strange combination.
Yes. And the very first interaction they have in this trailer is they're throwing so much shade at each other. It's like the insults are going back and forth, but you can tell they love each other. So interesting. I saw this trailer and thought to myself, Harry Potter knockoff.
Well, it's a weird one because it reminded me of the Goosebumps thing. Yeah. And so I don't know, it's clearly a kid, it's toward families, I think. Here's a question, and it has nothing to do with the story. Is it me or so I watched Jumanji and Jack Black looked normal, but in some of these movies I've seen him, it looks like he has a weird amount of either surgery or makeup. His makeup was weird in this.
I don't know. He's playing a warlock, so maybe they were trying to make him look a little bit more fantastical.
I don't know. He looked really weird, though.
Somehow. But anyway, I was kind of looking at this and thinking, you thought Goosebumps, I thought Harry Potter. It just looked derivative somehow. So I looked it up. This book was actually published in 1973.
Okay.
And the cool thing about the book that it's most famous for today, other than the fact that kids read it and it was a children's gothic horror story, whatever, illustrated by Edward Gorey, who I love. Are you familiar with Edward Gorey?
I don't think I am.
If you saw an Edward Gorey print, you would recognize it. He draws these pencil drawings. He's most famous really for his Alphabet series, where he talks about all the way that these kids died, and they're all just very gruesome. There's a PBS thing. It's a PBS mystery. That whole cartoony thing that starts up, that's Edward Gorey.
Gotcha. I know.
So
I know what you're talking about.
he illustrated this book, and so anything that Edward Gorey touches has he has a lot of fans. So as soon as I knew that, I was like, oh, this is like a movie of an Edward Gorey story. Got it. got it. Totally got it. For kids, it looks fun. It's not going to be something I pay full price for. Now that I don't have Movie Pass anymore.
I never heard of the book. I mean, and I was young at the time, but I never heard of it. But yeah, it just feels like it's that kind of kids mystery thing, and somebody's bringing it to life. So we'll see how it plays out. I don't know that I will go see it in the theater. I'll be honest with you.
So a creepy horror thing, a little bit more for adults, is A Simple Favor. Anna Kendrick, Blake Lively.
The beginning of it looks like it's a different movie than what it looks like it turns into. It looks like it's this. So Blake, of course, is beautiful and glamorous. And Anna is playing.
As she is wont to be.
Anna is playing this, just regular. Basically, they meet. Well, it's done through the voice of Anna Kendrick's character. And she says, I first met whatever her name is. Emily. Because we were picking our kids up at school or whatever. Their sons are friends. And so what they do is they start having play dates for the kids, and they sit around and drink cocktails and talk. And it looks like Anna kind of gets a girl crush on Blake, but Blake she's so beautiful, and she's funny, and she's witty, and looks to have this lovely relationship with her husband. And then you see this phone call happen where Blake calls Anna and says, I need you to do me a favor. Can you meet me at the house, right now? We see Anna go to the house. And then after that, it's a bunch of all these really fast scenes, and it's suddenly it's Gone Girl or The Girl on the Train. And so she goes missing. The Blake Lively character, Emily, goes missing. And it's a mystery, and you see some detective is saying, do you think the husband may have done it? It looks like it is, and all these people are coming forward saying, Emily's not who you think she is. And if you get to know her better, it's really, really dark, yada, yada. It's one of those, it's a suspense thriller. Yeah. And it could go either way. I mean, they're both extremely charming actresses. Very fun to watch on screen. So, it could be a hit.
Yeah, what's interesting to me is that this movie is directed by Paul Feig, who directed most of Melissa McCarthy's comedy hits.
Yes.
So that's weird. And even the thing, it says from the darker side of Paul Feig. And I was like, that's a comedy name. I know that name when I looked him up. Spy, The Heat. These are the movies.
And in the beginning of the trailer, it looks like it's going to be this buddy movie between these two chicks.
Yeah, it's going to have some humor in it, but it's going to get dark pretty soon.
It apparently turns really dark. So that could be fun as we get closer toward October. Speaking of fun and funny, with literally, it doesn't look like there's a mystery involved, nor is there any necessarily suspense. Night School.
Now, you wrote down in your notes for this movie, this is either going to be great or it's going to suck.
I feel that way.
Okay. I watched this trailer and I was like, this is hysterical. I cannot wait to see this movie. Okay. I have very high hopes for this.
It is Kevin Hart and Tiffany Haddish, which I cannot think of a more
funniest woman alive
couple. Yeah. Right this second.
Yeah.
To be together.
She is the funniest woman.
She is extraordinarily funny and clever. But here's what I want to say, and the reason I'm sticking to it.
Okay.
Is if we saw all of the funny bits in the trailer.
I trust Tiffany Haddish to bring the funny in every possible.
That's not fair. She didn't edit it. She didn't direct it. She didn't write it. That's not fair to put it on Tiffany to say that. I disagree. I think they're both funny, but I don't think either one of them necessarily had ultimate control of this movie. And I think that you can have really funny people, really clever people, and they can be in a crap movie. I think that can happen.
Yeah, although I looked at, there was one scene between the two of them where they were like, going back and forth with their reactions, that get more and more ridiculous as it goes along. And I watched this and I'm like, that was improv. That they just let these two actors go. I'm almost positive that they did that. And if they were smart and did that throughout, then they've got a whole lot of good stuff to work with. I
understand what you're saying.
If the trailer, if they could edit gold and make a really funny trailer out of it, it could suck. It's a trailer. Who knows? Sometimes you see good trailers and the movie stinks. I'm just saying I have very high hopes for this one.
No, I have all the optimism, and I think it's probably worth seeing in the theater because I think it will be funny. I think if it's even half as good as a trailer, looks like it can be, it will be a hit.
It's going to be so hilarious.
So my fingers are crossed.
So also hilarious, but this one also we know it has a sad ending, is a documentary that's coming out about Gilda Radner. It's called Love, Gilda. And what was interesting to me when I started watching this is the first thing you see is Amy Poehler, Bill Hader, and Melissa McCarthy are all handed a notebook full of her letters. And they treat it like it's the Holy Grail.
But they almost all of them were about in tears.
Yes.
I mean, was it Hader? I think it may have been Bill Hader who, like, you could see the tears well up in his eyes.
And he said,
like,
this is such an honor. You have no idea.
And I got choked up. I got choked up in the trailer.
This is going to be very similar to that Mr. Rogers documentary. Did you see that one?
I haven't seen it yet. I know it's wonderful.
It's, Mr. Rogers was not a comedian.
No.
Clearly. But I think it's going to be that same kind of thing, as a look at somebody's impact on the world. And I think what you're going to see with this one is a lot of impact that they had, that Gilda Radner had on comedians.
Yes, and especially the ones that are popular right now.
Yeah,
they grew up on her.
Yeah,
and so I agree that there's going to be a lot of that. This is why I am who I am stuff.
But it's going to be like Mr. Rogers was. Oh, that's cute. And now I'm weepy mess. When the lights came up after the Mr. Rogers documentary, I was in a theater seeing it live. And the entire room was wiping away tears.
That's one reason I put it off, is I know I'm going to be sobbing like just a nut
but in
job.
a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful way. I mean,
that,
it's not.
See it.
Yeah, it's not depressing. And I think this is going to be the same kind of thing. I think you're going to be wiping away some tears. In this one, obviously Gilda left us way too soon.
Yes.
And so that's going to be part of the tragedy that we witnessed. But also I think you're going to see so many clips of her being her genius self. And I feel like, I'm totally making this up, but watching the trailer, I felt like somebody looked around and said, not enough people know how wonderful Gilda Radner was. We need to make a movie to remind them.
I think I agree, because Saturday Night Live is what it is because of what it started out and who started out with it.
Yeah.
And she was one of the few females in this, and it was at that time, very, very male dominated.
But what we learned from the preview is that she was the first person that Lorne Michaels contracted to be in this cast.
Before any of the guys.
Before anybody else, including the guys. Yeah. And she really was, it's sad to kind of pigeonhole Gilda Radner as a really funny female comic, because she was the funniest person on SNL. For my money, Rosanna was, I cannot watch that still today and not be reduced into silly giggles.
I think this is going to be great, and I think that it's one of those to see in the theater.
Yeah.
For
Last
sure.
one for this block is an animated movie called Smallfoot.
As I said, there's not many kids stuff. There's the house with the clock in its walls one, and then there's this one, which is the only animated one that I saw out there, and it's called Smallfoot. Now, here's what I will say: what it looks like. So we have gone through all of, society, the idea of the sightings of Nessie, the Loch Ness Monster, or Bigfoot, or Yeti. And, but nobody can prove within a shadow of a doubt that these things exist, these creatures. And what this animation does is turn it around to where you have this group of Yeti up in the mountains.
Way high up in the mountains where humans cannot go.
And there are rumors of humans. I don't even know what they call them or
they
whatever.
They call them Smallfoot.
Smallfoot. Oh, that's right. Durr. And nobody believes they exist until this one Yeti finds one.
And then finds a group of Yeti conspiracy theorists who are part of this secret society.
I will be honest with you. It looked adorable to me.
I love the switch in perspective. I think that's really funny. I actually saw 2 different trailers for this movie because I wasn't sure which one we were talking about. And I prefer the one that starts off with a campfire scene where the Yeti's telling this story about this, and it's saying, and it's totally made up, blah, 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 but he's literally scaring the pants off of these Yeti children
Smallfoot
with
stories.
This story. So funny. And the other thing that I loved in this was the ancient scroll of wisdom, which turned out to be toilet paper. And then the line was, can you imagine the amazing stuff they put on this? And I was like, that was a poop joke in a kid's movie.
But here's what I want to say about this is that a lot of these movies, we have some, as I said, that's like The Hate U Give, which is very obviously about what it is about.
Sure.
And then you have this, which isn't, it doesn't say anything about racism. It doesn't say anything about immigration, but it does talk about looking at something from the complete polar opposite perspective.
Yeah.
And I think that is, I don't, again, I'm not saying they set out to make a political film. I'm saying that there is a lot of this kind of thing out there, even if it's subtle.
I went there too. I totally went to the allegory. It kind of reminded me a little bit of Harry Potter in its way about, kind of the wizards versus the muggles and just the fear of the other. Mm-hmm. And it is a movie about the fear of the other. And, you look at this cast, Zendaya, Channing Tatum, James Corden, Common, LeBron James. These are people who are providing voices for this movie. And, it's got such, the cast are filled with people who have these, not only diverse, but also who have these agendas elsewhere in their life, and I say agenda in a totally loving way. It's my agenda too. But because of that, that this cast was thinking about that stuff when they were making this movie.
Well, they read the script and they said, okay, I will do this.
And it's not heavy-handed. It
not
looks
at all.
Fun as hell, but I think it does have a pretty great
message. And I think if you want to take it shallow, you certainly can. It looks adorable to me, and I don't think it's because I'm desperate for an animation during this season, but I think it's cute.
And whereas The House with a Clock on Its Walls looked like a kid's movie, this looks like one that I'll see. I'll see this movie. I mean, if it, I don't know that I'll go to the theater and pay full price to see it.
Right.
But I will definitely, watch it on an airplane or when it's streaming. It'll be something really fun to kind of plop in and watch.
Agree.
It looks hysterical.
All right. More coming up. October's coming up. Have you ever seen The Right Stuff?
I never have. It's one of those that I know I should, and it's just it passed me by.
You really should see it. I actually saw it in the theater, and it took me 5 years. I was in the theater literally for 5 years. It's
such a ringing endorsement.
No, what I want to say to you, it's a very, very long movie. It truly, truly is. I will also tell you, it is fantastic, and it is about the first men in space. I say that, I bring that up because in October, we have a movie called First Man, and it is about Neil Armstrong going up to the moon.
It's interesting. Have we had a big Neil Armstrong movie? I feel like we've had a lot of space movies.
Maybe on TV, but never in
getting the cinematic treatment, which is about time.
Now so Ryan Gosling, which is kind of an interesting choice, although he does everything, so it's kind of I get it.
I think it's actually a great choice.
No, I think it's a bad choice.
And, I noticed that this movie is directed by the director of La La Land. I'm like, oh, so you found your muse, Damien.
Yeah.
Is Ryan Gosling going to be in all of your movies from now on? Maybe. Who knows?
Not a bad way, not a bad muse.
Yeah, you could do worse.
You could totally do worse. What's her face from The Crown?
Claire Foy.
Plays his wife.
And I went to the movies recently, and I actually saw this trailer in a movie theater going to the movies, and it was right behind a trailer we'll probably be talking about in our next one, was The Girl in the Spider's Web, where she plays the new
dragon tattoo
girl, Elizabeth Salander. She's the new that girl. And so it was just like, it's great to see her getting a shit ton of work after
she is
The
getting
Crown.
A lot, and she's getting a lot of different stuff, because I've seen her some other stuff as well.
It's kind of cool that The Crown is still so hot, and when the next series comes out, she won't be in it at all, but she can still ride that wave and has a lot of time and can get a lot of work.
But I think she's going to ride the wave of stuff she's doing. She plays his wife, who is American, so that's good on her too. All these Brits playing with American accents. I mean, what this trailer to me looks like, it's showing that side that we as non-astronauts don't see, in the fear that when they go to work that morning, it's not that they might get in a crash, on the interstate, or that they might have to work late. It's that they might actually blow up in the sky.
Mm-hmm.
And that there's a moment at the dinner table when he's called, he's going to go up, which of course is his dream and it's his goal. Meanwhile, the wife is sitting there going, all of this could change tomorrow. I mean,
Yep.
my world could totally. I don't think it's from her perspective all completely. I'm just saying I think that's a part of it. But I think it's kind of a biopic, if you will.
Although I did
for this section of time for Neil.
I did learn through the trailer, and I guess I didn't know this before, that this was a much riskier mission than I knew. All the test runs were failing, and it looked very likely this thing would kind of, not end well for Armstrong. And so I think she's a useful window to kind of look at through this, because who else is going to be more worried about this failing than his wife? And it adds a kind of a human perspective onto this thing.
So, and it also might be Oscar bait for either or both of them. So that's out there. Again, we're now in October movies, and that's when you'll see some of these that people want to get in under the wire.
And a great supporting cast, by the way. When I looked this up on IMDb, Brian Darcy James, Lucas Haas, Patrick Fugit from Saved, who I loved, Syrian Hines, great Irish actor.
Love him.
Pablo Schreiber, Liev's younger brother, who was on Orange is the New Black and was wonderful. Kyle Chandler, who just has that all-American face. Anytime you want to make movie audiences feel good about America, just put Kyle Chandler in your movie, and he's just got this. You can hear the national anthem playing in the background.
Speaking of Oscar bait, a little bit is Serenity.
Maybe, yeah.
I mean, I don't know, but it's our second Matthew McConaughey kind of thing.
Yep.
But it's a film noir.
Yes.
It really looks old school.
It does. It's very Double Indemnity kind of territory.
And it's got Anne Hathaway as a blonde. And Diane Lane, which I adore. Diane Lane.
Love her.
And it's one of those, again, this could go either way. If they do it correctly, that's a great cast.
Yes.
But if they don't know what the hell they're doing, because I think film noir is harder than it sounds.
Oh, very, very. Especially when, film noir. Noir is obviously French for black. And it's kind of, it means dark. It's going to be dark. And yet this is all taking place on this tropical island, which is a weird setting for a film noir. I remember, a little bit of film trivia. Leave Her to Heaven was the first film noir in the golden age of noir back in the 40s that really did that didn't use darkness and shadows to tell the story. In fact, the most chilling moment of Leave Her to Heaven happens in broad daylight in a Technicolor movie. And people were like, that's even creepier because the setting is not getting us in the mood. You're just watching this horrific thing. That kind of reminded me of this when I was watching this.
It looks like it's a mystery, thrillery kind of thing.
I don't know how much mystery there is. I mean, the first thing that really occurred to me, Anne Hathaway, and no spoilers because we haven't seen the movie and all we've seen is the trailer, and you can watch it in 2 minutes. Wants Matthew McConaughey to kill her husband because she's married to an abusive prick. And so they go out on this boat, and the plot is they're going to kill hubby.
Yeah, but I don't know.
Maybe she's got an ulterior motive,
that's what I think.
And maybe they're setting him up for something.
See, I don't think, and that's the thing about film noir. Nothing is ever as it seems when you first deal with it, and that's why I'm sitting here going, she says he's abusive. She says that's where she got, and you see, quote, flashbacks. But I'm like, if you tell the story from her perspective, you show these flashbacks, but are the flashbacks real? I tend to think that there is a mystery thing in there.
You might be right. The trailer's not setting us up for that, but you're probably correct. Just
because it just felt very much like that. So it could go one way or the other. But it does have a lovely cast. There's something to be pretty to look at.
Yeah,
if nothing
Jimon
else.
Hunsu is in this as well.
Oh yeah, I saw him.
Jason Clarke is the gross husband, who is also, by the way, in First Man. So he's having a nice fall. It looks like a good. And I'm not really sure who Diane Lane is in this movie.
No, it doesn't say that in the trailer.
But
at all.
It gives plenty of her face, so anybody who's a fan of hers will be drawn to go see this.
So again, going with the whole based on something is this to me, I'll be honest with you, this was hashtag Oscar bait. The whole it's called Beautiful Boy,
which is the name of the memoir that it's based on.
And Steve Carell plays this father of a son, and the son has addiction issues.
Yep.
And the father is trying to understand why it exists at all, because that's not him.
Because it seems like this kid had a pretty idyllic childhood as well.
Yeah.
There's really no reason for him to, external reason.
So he's also trying to understand his son's pain. And so it's, to me, and again, it's based on the memoir of the father and the son trying, and so.
Who wrote this together? So spoiler, he gets better.
Hopefully he's at least better enough to write a book.
Yeah.
But again, to me, I don't know. This is not a movie I will go see in the theater. I'll tell you right now.
Steve Carell seemed way too earnest in this movie. Every single line was just like, I just want to understand, and I just love my son, and it just seemed so one note. And I get it. I mean, fathers love their kids, and watching a kid, be addicted to drugs must be painful. But I didn't see anything that was like, this is an interesting perspective on this, or this is a new way to look at this story.
Well, and you hit it on me. I just kind of felt like, why does this need to be made except for the actors to get nominations? Yeah. I didn't. There was nothing. I'll be honest with you. I love Steve Carell. I will not see this. This story does not interest me.
Yeah, and this is again Steve Carell saying, I can be a dramatic actor, and he can.
But he's already proved that. So I feel that, can you go back to doing funny stuff for a little bit? Or
do something that's interesting. This to me just didn't look interesting. The dramatic film he's making that's coming out later in the year that we'll talk about in the holiday preview things looks way more interesting. And I'm definitely going to go see Welcome to Marwen, but not this one.
Okay, so the next one is, I know Eric is dying. Aren't you? You don't look like you're dying now.
I'm not dying.
At one point, I thought you were dying to see this.
Well, I will see it. I will see it because I'll lose my gay card if I don't.
It is a fourth rendition of A Star is Born.
And this one with Lady Gaga.
Got Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper.
So who is in the first one? Jean Crane, I want to say, or somebody, Janet Gaynor.
Yeah, Janet Gaynor. That's who it was.
Janet Gaynor was the first one. Who is
and
not...
That was 1937.
Okay. Janet Gaynor, not a gay icon.
No.
Good actor.
Although, I will say this, I think it's possible that if she were modern today, she would be.
Might be.
I'm just saying.
All I'm saying is that the next three A Star is Born starred Judy Garland.
In 1954.
Barbara Streisand.
1976.
And now Lady Gaga.
2018.
So you kind of have to see, you lose your gay card if you don't go see the new Star is Born
but
starring
you're not excited
this generation's gay. What I'm excited. I'll see it. The thing is about A Star is Born, it's a very depressing story.
It is.
And I'm kind of surprised it gets made over and over and over again.
Okay, I'm going to go back into time and say this sometimes The Star is Born, even the Barbara Streisand version, felt like this was done for the actors. It's an actor who wants to do it's. Okay, so Judy Garland wanted to do this role, so she did. Barbara Streisand saw Judy Garland do it. She wanted to do this role, so she did. Lady Gaga wants to be taken seriously as an actress now. Yep. I'm not saying that's bad. I'm not saying she can't do it. I'm saying that's where she is now. She wanted to do this. It's kind of like, here's what I'm going to say. I feel like this is her Evita in Madonna's life.
Although the story I've heard is that this film is directed and starring Bradley Cooper. He's also behind the camera.
Yes, I knew that.
And he apparently begged her to do this. And she was like, don't know if it's right for me. And he was just like, I need you to do this movie. So she wasn't necessarily clamoring to do the fourth A Star is Born, if the stories I've read are true.
Okay.
I
may or may not believe that.
Yeah, what I will say, I went back and watched the trailer from '76. I saw the Chris Christopherson because the first, I don't even know, I've never seen their very first Star is Born. I've never seen it. I saw the Judy Garland version, which kind of was the golden age of movie musicals. Then Chris Christopherson and Barbara Streisand did The World of Rock Music, and this one's going back to rock music. And I was kind of like, could have picked a different genre. That could have been an interesting way to put it. But, Bradley Cooper sings in this one, and he actually sounds pretty good doing his, kind of long-haired guitar thing. What I will say about A Star is Born is that it's a very depressing story, and the 76 trailer shows you that, and this 2018 trailer does not. If you don't know anything about A Star is Born, all this trailer looks like is down on his luck singer, falls in love with a girl, makes her a star, and they can be happy together. And that's the first half of the movie. But
Correct.
this trailer shows you nothing from the second half of the film, if in fact they follow the same storyline that all the others have.
My guess is that they do, because why do it if you don't?
Exactly.
If you're an actor or actress or a director, you don't do it unless you're going to do the
Bradley
whole thing.
Cooper wants to play the last half of the movie as well,
Exactly.
because, and I'm just going to, if you haven't seen Star is Born, you've
had 3
You've had
chances.
a long time to see it. So what this movie is about is the first half of it is a love story where a big male star plucks a female unknown out of obscurity, turns her into a big star.
Bigger
and the second
than
half
he
of the
is.
movie is she begins to eclipse him in terms of stardom, and his addiction issues, which he's always had, begin to catch up with him. And eventually he commits suicide, and she gets this big closing number at the end, this big I will survive kind of thing, because the love of her life is dead at his own hand. Yay! Party for everybody. That's the movie.
I'm feeling Oscar bait. I'm feeling, it's not, and again, but you're right. I think that the trailer was made for 2018, baby. The trailer was made for 2018.
Gaga fans to show up and watch her kick ass, which I'm sure she will.
Yep.
She's a good actor.
Yep.
From the little I've seen of her.
Yep.
She looks like she's going to be great in
And
this.
she'll sing her guts out. So that'll
He
be fine.
looks a little wrecked in this, which is probably good because Bradley Cooper is really pretty and he's still good looking, even though he looks a little, and in fact, you've got, somebody there going, I'm worried about you, man. That's the only clue that you get in this whole trailer of where the story will eventually go. I will see it, but it's not, but A Star is Born, because the story is what it is. You steel yourself to watch A Star is Born because it's going to be this big emotional roller coaster. It's not going to be like going, this is not Mamma Mia 2. This is not Mamma Mia 2.
No, not at all. Speaking of not Mamma Mia 2, Bad Times at El Royale.
Which looks super fun.
It looks so bizarre. It's so bizarre. It is so bizarre.
I can't wait.
So it's got John Hamm looks to be all over it. I mean, he looks to be the main guy.
And Jeff Bridges.
Yeah, Jeff Bridges is in there as well as a priest until at the end we find that he's not. Again, here's my issue. Sometimes trailers tell you too much. When I saw Jeff Bridges in The Collar, I'm like, there's no way he's a priest. And instead of making me come see the movie and then telling me that he's not a priest, they told me in the trailer that he's not a priest. And I'm like, that would have been a fun one.
But that moment of I'm not a priest, that could be from the first 10 minutes of the movie. Like, we don't know.
That's true. You're right. But it was just one of those where I was like, come on. It is so bizarre. And it just looks so weird. It's a suspense thriller, but I think I would see it because of the cast.
So the cast, Chris Hemsworth, who takes
off his shirt. So
takes
check.
full advantage of his gorgeousness, but also looks like he's having a good time and is doing it. Nick Offerman.
Hysterical.
Is in this. John Hamm, as you mentioned. Dakota Johnson.
I like her.
I've not seen any of the 50 Shades movies.
No,
I
haven't seen any of those.
And
I wouldn't see those. Those are awful.
What have you seen her in?
A bad movie and I saw, you know what I saw her in? A little TV series she was in for about 5 minutes, which was adorable. And it was called Nate and something.
Another ringing endorsement from Stacey.
It was canceled, but it shouldn't have been because it was his brother and sister. She was a single mom, and the brother moves in with her.
Okay,
and it was a comedy, and it was absolutely lovely.
Okay,
and
I've not seen her do anything because the only thing I know her from is 50 Shades.
Yeah,
and I won't see it.
And those are shite.
Okay, Jeff Bridges, and the one that I'm the most excited about, Cynthia, and I don't know how to pronounce her name, Erivo. I saw her on stage as Celie in the Broadway musical The Color Purple. She is phenomenal, and she sings in this one. So and it's one of those things where it's like, how can you cast her and not make her sing because she's phenomenal? But she's the one who is in the car with Jeff Bridges, has a gun pointed at him, and he says, "I'm not a priest," and her line is, "Yeah, no shit," which that also tells me it's probably not a big secret from the beginning of the movie. In fact, you might see him strap a gun to himself and then put the collar on.
Were you able to discern the plot?
The plot is simply that, or at least what I could tell of it, there's this hotel that sits astride the California-Nevada state borders.
So you come to...
And you get these keys, and there are secret windows where the owners of the hotel can walk down this hallway and see into the rooms. So when Jeff Bridges is up to way no good, there's somebody on the other side of a secret window who can watch all of this going on. And it looks like there's a bunch of...
I got so confused, I'll be honest with you.
I did too. I couldn't really discern a plot. I discerned a lot of atmosphere.
Okay.
But the atmosphere looks fun. It looks very strange and very Tarantino-ish.
But I also think it's appropriate for October.
Yes, why not?
Very, very appropriate, which this next one is also very appropriate for October.
And the next one even more so, but let's talk about this next one first.
Venom, which is, it's interesting. It's Tom Hardy is his take on Venom, because Topher Grace did it in the Spider-Man things. And so this is Tom Hardy, comic book and anti-hero. And it's I don't know anything about it. So this was all that my introduction to Venom.
Yep.
And so he looks like he's just this nice guy who gets this weird virus implanted in him involuntarily, by the way, #me too. And then they're fighting for control over his body and what he'll do. But sometimes the monster can come out, and so it's just very strange. Like, they have this one moment after the monster's in him, and they're in he's in this bodega.
Yep.
And it's getting robbed, and suddenly Venom comes out or whatever and just beats the shit out of everything. And then Venom goes away, and he's like, "All right, see you later, Miss Chen," or whatever her name is. But it was like, wait, what just happened? Yeah,
I'm gonna be honest. This movie, the first thing I noticed about it was this is not a Marvel film. This is in association with Marvel film. So Venom is a Marvel property, but this is not one of the movies made by Marvel Studios. I am here for a superhero movie of almost any kind because I loved comic books as a kid. I'm not excited about this movie. Is it
because of the character or because of
the character, the treatment of it? It looks, I don't know. Something about it just made me go, no, pass. I mean, if it gets great reviews, then I'll go, okay, maybe I was wrong. But this is one of those cases where whoever made the trailer just made it look cheesy, but not cheesy fun. It looks like it's trying to be really serious, but then it just kind of it's a bunch of cheese.
I think if you're trying to compete with the Marvel universe and the money and the quality that they have going on there, honestly, the best way to compete is to compete, is to go in a different direction. And again, don't get me wrong, don't go in the direction that DC went for a while. But I think that if you end up looking like a poor man's version, it's not good for you.
Yeah, and something about this, I didn't care. Like, I looked at it and was like, okay, don't care. Which is not neither here nor there. It just didn't excite me. It just left me kind of bleh.
Right. So happy Halloween. Oh, guess what's happening?
Halloween is back.
It is.
Jamie Lee fucking Curtis.
I mean, and you're like, well, wait a minute. Why are we watching? Why are we talking about that old thing? Oh no. It is new.
Although it's called Halloween.
It's called Halloween. Not any kind of number after it.
And am I correct in assuming that Halloween 2 through 16 never happened in the world of this movie? It looks like this is purely a sequel to the first film.
That may be true.
And I think we're just supposed to forget that all those other things went on.
This is all about Jamie Lee Curtis's Halloween.
Yes.
And she had one back in the day, and she's having one now.
And Michael Myers went to jail.
Yes.
And he's been there forever, it looks like. And I think he went off to jail at the end of the first movie.
Yeah.
And so basically he's been in maximum security prison 4 years. Laurie Strode is now a grandma, and she's a badass grandma who confesses to her priest during this preview that I've been dreaming that he would escape. And she's like, why? She goes, so I can kill him. So she's not this victim-y, screamy.
But she wants
no, but she's out for it.
You know what it's like? Terminator 2.
A little.
What?
A little. Yeah, I see. I'm picking up what you're putting down, Stacey.
Yep. So that one for Halloween fans, horror fans, spooky, fun, these kind of genre. This looks like it's going to be. I mean, I'm sorry if Jamie Lee Curtis has something to do with it. It's probably right there quality-wise.
And I'm just going to say this looked less scary to me than your typical horror movie, not because he's not going to be scary, but because she is not scared. She's pissed. Like your hero is pissed off. And so it really is like a hero versus villain story as opposed to a monster terrorizes the town story and everybody screams.
Who is chasing who is hunting who.
Exactly.
And maybe that's what this is more of. The hunted has become the hunter. But also, what is the fallout to that? I think it's fun. And I get kudos to Jamie Lee for saying, you know what? Hell yeah. I'm going to do it. So, but that's what's coming out. Now, there's a crap ton coming out in November and December, and we are going to talk about those. They're still making trailers. It's one of those, I was sad that we didn't have the trailer to Crazy Rich Asians last time, because that has turned out to be just absolutely fabulous.
Yep.
So, we want to wait as long as we can until all the trailers are out, until we start able to talk about them. So
we'll be back in the holidays to talk about the hashtag Oscar bait.
I hope this helped you kind of figure out what you may or may not want to watch the next couple of months. There's some good ones in there for me.
I'll tell you what, my final diagnosis, Venom is the only one that I'm looking at and going, hard pass. There are others that I'm not super excited about. Beautiful Boy, White Boy Rick, City of Lies, probably not in the theater, but there's a lot of these that I'm really excited to see.
What's the big one that you're going to see for sure?
Well, I'm definitely going to see A Star Is Born because, again, my gay card is at risk. Bad Times at the El Royale, I'm legitimately excited about that. The Hate U Give looks like it's going to be a great movie, one that you steel yourself to go see.
Right.
Simple Favor looks fun. Night School looks hilarious. And I'm interested to see Melissa McCarthy go all the way serious in Can You Ever Forgive Me? So there's a lot that I'm looking forward to.
See, I won't see that many. I want to see Operation Finale, the Adolf Eichmann thing. I'm all up in that. I'll let you tell me how Can You Ever Forgive Me is. I might see City of Lies, the murder of Biggie Small. That just sounds a little bit interesting to me. Also, Night School. You're
gonna wait for the reviews.
I'm gonna wait for the reviews, but I may see it in the theater.
But I bet they're gonna be good.
Because Love Gilda probably. And then Smallfoot. I'll see Smallfoot. I know I will. And also, I probably will see First Man. So there you go.
Not a bad slate.
Not bad. Not bad at all. A lot of Oscar bait. And we'll just have to see how it falls out at some point. So that's Popperation. I'm Stacey.
I'm Eric. Till the next time. See you. Bye.
You've been listening to Popperation with Eric and Stacey, the podcast that dissects popular culture one bloody organ at a time. Subscribe today on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, YouTube, and any other podcast listening site or app. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook at Popperation Room. Check out our website at popperationroom.com for all of the podcasts, our blog, swag, and games. Until next time, when we're back in the scrubs.
Hashtag Movie Pass Fail.